It's official. President Biden has ended his pursuit of re-election. Now, I don't believe this is a surprise to a hell of a lot of folks. However, just the actual time when it took place on a Sunday afternoon. But I think most folks were already under the realization that there was a really good chance that Biden would bow out. Nevertheless, here we are. Biden is out of the race. There is some good news and bad news in this, particularly for Democratic voters. We'll certainly cover that. However, we would certainly entertain. What is your opinion? Do you favor, if you lean left, do you favor Biden dropping out of the race? Now, Biden released a lengthy statement, one page, but several paragraphs. We're not going to read all of that here. However, he did say, I will speak to the nation in more detail about my decision later in the week. I don't think a hell of a lot of folks are really concerned because they know, everyone absolutely is certain what his decision was. He came to this decision simply because there was an overwhelming amount of elite Democrats talking about the Pelosi's, talking about the Hakeem Jeffries, the Chuck Schumers, telling him it's that time. So we know why he came to his decision. Kind of have a little bit of sympathy for the man. Having somebody tell you you can't do something that you personally feel like you can. I think we've all had that happen once or twice in our lives, certainly as you cross over the 40-year mark. Once you get to be older, you know you can't do what you did in your 20s, and Biden is at a point in his life where he can't even do what he did in his 40s and 50s. So it does come to a sad conclusion for the president. Let's talk about some good news and bad news, though. This is what we believe is good news for President Biden dropping out for Democrats, for liberals, and some independents, and we'll cover bad news as well. Point number one, this won't cost Democrats any votes at all. This is not likely to cost the Democratic Party, Democratic voters, any votes at all, because at the end of the day, the overwhelming majority of folks who are going to vote Democrat come this fall are anti-Trump votes. There wasn't a lot of love for President Biden to begin with in 2024. 2020 may be a different thing. But I think they were estimating some 70% of Democrats wanted Biden to drop out 2-3 weeks ago, maybe even as many as several months ago, certainly after the June 27 debate. So Biden dropping out and being replaced by another Democrat during a time when the basic phrase is vote blue no matter who among the liberals, it's not going to cost the Democratic Party any votes by Biden bowing out. Now, we will say that some of the independents that were going to sit out for President Biden due to his health, sit out the election. Some folks were like, listen, I'm never going to vote for Trump, but Biden is unfit for office, so I'm likely to sit this one out. Well, with a more able-bodied Democratic replacement, those voters are more likely to actually be involved in the election now. So that's some good news for the Democratic Party. Next, black voters. No denying that Trump was inching up on the amount of blacks starting to vote on his side. Biden doesn't have a lot of love among the young black community. Now, we know that Biden got put in power by talking to pastors out in North Carolina during the Democratic primary back in 2019. But this is a long time from that now. A hell of a lot of new voters are going to be into the fray. And there's not a lot of love for President Biden among the African Americans or even minorities in general. And certainly the Republican Party, Trump supporters, MAGA in general, and Trump himself have done a good job bringing up a lot of things that Biden has done that are somewhat racially oriented in the past, such as Vote For Me or You Ain't Black, the 94 crime bill, and a host of other things. So replacing Biden with Kamala Harris even will likely bring some of those voters back to the Democratic side. Now, there's not a lot of love for Kamala Harris among African Americans either, but it is certainly likely to be more than it was for President Biden. Women voters. Kamala has done a really good job bringing up the rolling back of Roe v. Wade. throughout a host of states in this great nation. So it's very likely that Kamala could do very well with female voters. Trump is an alpha male, not exactly pro-feminism. He's certainly running a pro-life campaign. So my guess is Kamala will do far, far better than Trump with the female voting bloc. Not to say there's not a lot of female MAGA out there, shout out to you, but Kamala would do better with women in terms of getting votes than President Trump. Down ballot races, yet another piece of good news for the Democratic Party. We know a lot of donors were pulling their money out, and they were so pissed that the Democrats are fighting against taking Biden out when he obviously couldn't do the job, that they started threatening to even withdraw donations to down ballot races. Democratic senators, Congress, governors, mayors, get this guy out or we're not going to donate our money to any Democratic cause. Getting rid of Biden energizes that as well, and some donors are already back on line. They're already back stating, yeah, we're back in the party again. So that is certainly good news for the Democratic Party. Another piece of good news, the debates. Obviously, Kamala Harris's cognitive abilities are eons above Biden's. Can she beat Trump in a debate? We can certainly discuss that in future videos if she decides to debate Trump. But nevertheless, there's no denying she can speak and not going to lose her train of thought like Biden was doing. So she will do better in debates than Biden. After seeing what happened on June 27th, is there anybody that believes Kamala's going to do worse than that? That's got to be the worst debate performance of any presidential contender in U.S. history. And we're even talking about sweating Nixon. Got to be the worst. So her cognitive abilities are far better than Biden. So that is good news. And last but not least, Kamala is more likely to unite the Democratic Party. There was a lot of division in the Democratic Party, even in Washington. Folks demanding that Biden step down. That number was growing day by day. And they were battling with other folks who were saying that Biden should stay in and run the course. So it was starting to divide the Democratic Party up. I think we can all assume that when they put in a different candidate, it's going to unite the Democratic Party. I mentioned this, and I know the MAGA side did not like this, but I also mentioned that with Kamala Harris. Trump is divisive to the Republican Party, despite what you may have seen at the RNC. It's a lot of traditional true blue conservatives that would prefer someone else run for the nation's highest office other than Trump. That's why Kamala Harris continued receiving votes long after she dropped out of the race. The Democrats may have realized their mistake in time and put in a candidate that and is now seeking a candidate that may do a good job in uniting the party. But just like we stated, not only is it some good news, there is bad news as well. And this bad news is primarily assuming that the choice will be Kamala Harris. We don't know if the Democrats will go with anybody else. So right now, the assumption that it will be Kamala. So we're going to go with some bad news that may derive by promoting her to the top of the ticket. Number one, she is black. Folks that talk about racism in it hundreds of years ago, and that's not an issue in this country, that damn sure is a lie. Even among liberals and Democrats, there are plenty of Democrats that may have hopes and wishes that someone else would run that is not a person of color. So Kamala being black is not necessarily not always a good thing. It could be in some circles. It certainly helped out Obama, but not always. And we'll talk about independents as well. Independents have to decide between Trump and Biden, or now Trump and Kamala or whoever else. So is there folks in the independent group that may take skin color into account? My humble opinion is yeah, there is. Second, Kamala is also a woman. It's a hell of a lot of folks, right and left, that do not favor the temperament of a woman leading this great nation. I've talked to many viewers who believe a woman is incapable of this job simply because of the amount of stress that being a president entails. See Hillary Clinton. Continuing on, Kamala will be tied to President Biden's record. There's a lot of negatives that can be brought up in regards to that, such as the border. Kamala's on record saying there was nothing wrong at the southern border for about the first 2 years of her vice presidency, and now it's turned out that there's undeniable problems existing at the border. The amount of folks that are coming in was just continuing to grow and grow and grow. So anything that Biden failed at or misled the nation on, they're going to tie it to Kamala Harris. So that can certainly be a negative because she has to now answer for most of Biden's issues, such as many would bring up, wars breaking out, the cost of fuel, the cost of groceries, inflation. She's number 2 in that administration. They're going to tie it to her. So she will have to answer for all of that. Number 4, she never was very popular to begin with. Even among many minorities, Kamala was never a very popular figure to begin with. So somehow, some way, she got to increase her popularity so that she does not fall in Biden's category, where people are simply voting for her because she's not Trump. She was never popular, even among minorities. That certainly is not a positive for Kamala. Continuing on, delegate money, trying to switch it to someone else. If Kamala is not the go-to person, folks who have donated money to the Biden-Harris campaign, I think by law, that money is supposed to go to Biden and Harris. You can't just pick somebody else, even if it's Michelle Obama, and just donate the millions of dollars that are sitting there to this other person that people did not officially donate to. You can't just use campaign funds in that way. And we gotta take into the obvious fly on the wall. Trump is in control of the Supreme Court, at least to a mild degree. They're in his pocket. So if all of a sudden the Democrats were going to try to propel somebody incredibly more popular like Michelle Obama to the top of the ticket, Republicans have already announced they will challenge that. And if it goes to the Supreme Court, you think the Supreme Court in its current condition would allow Michelle Obama to represent the Democratic Party? So we have to consider that for folks who may want Michelle Obama or Hakeem Jeffries or some other Democrat you may feel is more likely to do the job and succeed than Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, you name it. The Republicans have already stated that if they try to put someone else in over Kamala, they are going to challenge it. Now, it's not to assume a lot of African Americans and minorities may not challenge trying to sidestep an African American woman to begin with. But the Republican Party certainly, absolutely, do not want to run against the likes of Michelle Obama or probably even Hakeem Jeffries. So expect the challenge to come from their side of the aisle as well. However, let your boy know in the comments, what do you think? Do you favor them taking Biden out, or were you among the stay the course crowd? Is this good news for the liberals or bad news? If you are MAGA, if you're a Trump supporter, would you rather Trump had ran against Biden? Or do you feel confident Trump could beat any liberal in his wake? See you in the comments. Feel free to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.